Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank y'all for
Hello.
joining me today. I appreciate the shit out of all y'all. Um, hopefully y'all don't mind me cursing. But
I don't mind.
okay.
Not at all.
Well,
Not even a
yeah.
little bit.
Okay. Okay, good. So we're all on the same page here. Thank God. All right. So I really had this on my heart to talk about. If you guys saw my tweet last week, I did it in a huge rush, and I had nothing but guys volunteer to be on the podcast. And I was like, okay, I'm not discussing this with a bunch of guys on the podcast, so I'm gonna rewind a bit. Um, and so thankfully, all y'all came forward. I reached out. I know I reached out to Kate because I've been knowing Kate for a while, and she's I mean, we don't talk much, but I still consider her a close streaming friend of mine because we've been in each other's lives for like what almost 2 years now.
I feel like it. I feel
Yeah,
like we kind of just like float in and out of each other's lives, you know?
yeah. And then Katsu, you reached out, and Kitty, you reached out, and I really appreciate both of y'all reaching out to me to be part of this, especially since y'all never talked to me before. So that's yeah, that's
Yeah.
really really like made me feel happy because like I like interacting with people that I don't interact with much before. My last podcast, it was like 3 people that I never interacted with, and this one is 2 people I've never interacted with. So it's really cool that we can use this space to actually get to know each other and also just discuss things, the serious things that are going on. Um,
Absolutely.
so I'll start it out with this, I guess. I would love for y'all to at least introduce yourselves before we get the show on the road for anybody who might not know who y'all are or who just to introduce yourselves so everybody gets a feel for everybody in the podcast. Is it the right display for everybody? Like, does everybody see
Mhm.
the Discord the same way? Okay, so we'll do it
Yeah.
like a roundabout way. We'll do Katsu, Kitty, Kate, and then I'm not even gonna introduce myself. I don't even feel like I should. But y'all take so Katsu, you can take the floor. No, I'm so
Oh
sorry.
no?
I'm so sorry.
That's
My
okay.
internet went out.
Oh
Now
no.
Oh
it's back. I'm so
no.
sorry. I
That's
went.
okay.
Okay, when did y'all last hear me talk?
The whole time.
Yeah.
Really? So
Yeah, I
y'all
can't
got
tell
like.
where it
Yeah.
dropped on stream because it's muted for me, but
Oh, got you. Okay,
I feel like
so
the delay is
Yeah.
about 15 seconds or so.
15 seconds. Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So okay,
Gotcha.
we're gonna do it like a roundabout way, and I would love for y'all to
Sure.
introduce yourselves. Starting with Katsu. Oh, sure, y'all already heard me say all that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool. Actually, Katsu, I'm gonna turn you up a little bit because you're a little low. I'm gonna turn
Okay.
you
Yeah.
up through here.
Let me see.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, cool. All right, take the floor.
All right. So I'm really bad at introducing myself. But I'm Katsu. I started on Twitch probably about 2 years ago, and I got into a relationship, and eventually that kind of drove me off of Twitch, just because of the community that my partner had and how he was. So it's been about a year. This is my first time being back on Twitch
Oh
Oh,
wow.
since
wow, welcome back.
ever. So, but I mean, it's a good thing to do because I'm not alone doing it.
Yeah,
So it really kind of like
Absolutely.
it's easing a lot of like the nervousness, I guess you could say.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
awesome. Welcome back for one, and I'm sorry you had to go through all of that stuff. That must have been terrible, and I'm sorry about
Oh yeah,
that.
definitely. But you learn and you grow. So
Yeah, for
I learned a
Mhm.
lot
sure.
of lessons, and I'm stronger for it.
That's a good thing. Always a good thing.
Mhm.
All right, Kitty.
Hello, my name is Kitty. Uh I am a variety streamer here on Twitch. I've been around the platform for I want to say like 6 or 7 years now in
Whoa.
some shape or another. I haven't been streaming the whole time, but yeah, I've been around the platform for a minute. Um and I tend to just stream a lot, just a variety of games, mostly chill stuff, Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, but also like the occasional first person pew pews. Um, but I generally try to promote good vibes and good learning space in my community, and I'm looking forward to chatting with y'all today.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Anytime.
All right. Miss Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate. I've been on Twitch for about a year and a half, and I started off as a variety like Switch streamer and just indie games, and my journey has been just a weird one. I changed stuff quite a few times, but I've landed on I do mostly like body painting now, as well as I've started to integrate more games into it because doing body painting every stream is exhausting.
Mm.
So I kind of combine sort of my favorite things at this point. And yeah, Twitch can be a rough place,
Oh yeah.
but you know, it's I'm glad to be on Twitch. I've met amazing people and I love the community. We focus on, you know, inclusivity and having real talks pretty often about mental health and just what's going on in our lives. And yeah, it's a double-edged sword for sure, but I love it
Mhm.
more than anything. So, you know, I'm still here.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm Yosh. Uh, I've been on Twitch for going on 3 years. 3 years and probably like 2 weeks. And
Wow.
I started off as a Hearthstone streamer. Was really really big into Hearthstone. Because that was all my like my 10-year-old computer could handle. And I went through a lot of trials this past year with my content, focusing on who I wanted to be. And now, honestly, I'm just like a just chatting streamer and with video game indie games sprinkled in there. I was super big into Tarkov the past year, and as much as I love that game, me playing that game just made me lose myself and who I was as a content creator. And but now I'm kind of finding myself again, especially with everything going on. It's kind of like opened my eyes that I can use my platform for more. And like I feel like it was a big mistake on my part to kind of put everything on the back burner and just be like a gamer and be a person who fosters like positivity. And I've realized that you can't really foster a positive environment if you don't put your foot down and stand for the right things either. So so yeah, it's a this past 3 months, I feel like it's been a huge wake up call for me as a content creator, and which is why I want to do these roundtable discussions, because I feel like a lot of people can learn from it and see different sides and different viewpoints, and rather than just like talk over people, just listen to people's stories. Like I told this to the last people who I had the roundtable discussion with. I don't really want it to be a debate or anything debating. I just want it to people to talk and people to listen, kind of thing. And I feel like there's not enough of that going on, you know, and I want more just discussions overall. And this, I want to use this as a learning opportunity for me as well on how to be a better ally for women in general, especially during these times. I've never been the one to where like, oh, I need evidence first or that. I've always taken the stories to heart because I'm a very, very empathetic person. And I've always taken the stories to heart and always believed first before anything. So, yeah. But sorry, I went on a tangent. Thank you guys so much for being here, though. Of course, I want to get into the just overall the whole Me Too movement that happened this past, what was it, like the past week? Like there's so much stuff going on day by
I
day.
know.
It's so
Time
hard.
got real in
Still
Corona
going, yeah.
era.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's like this past 2 weeks, I feel like the past 2 weeks it's just been story after story coming out. And I just want to know, like, how has everything affected y'all in particular? Sorry, I'm Southern. I'm from New Orleans, so I will say y'all a lot. But how has it affected y'all, as far as like bringing up past trauma? And y'all don't have to go into y'all stories at all. This
Mhm.
isn't a place for y'all to. Y'all don't have to say y'all stories if y'all aren't comfortable with it. But how has it felt bringing up past trauma, um, as far as hearing all these stories break out? Katsu, if you want to take the lead on it.
Yeah. So it really kind of forced me to confront what I had been ignoring. I'm one of those type of people where like I will literally avoid thinking about anything negative. You know, I don't want to think about it. Like I just rather keep going and just ignore what I'm feeling. And I wasn't confronting a lot. Um, because I've had sexual abuse as a child, and I've been in two abusive relationships. Um, and it was just kind of like, okay, well, I can handle this. I got this. And then you see all these stories coming out, and it just kind of started to bring up stuff. Um,
Mhm.
because I've struggled with PTSD, anxiety, depression my whole entire life. So it's been okay, well, let's just kind of heal, and move on. Let's not worry about the past because it's in the past. But the fact of the matter is, it affects who you are as a person. It affects your choices. It affects how you think. And I wasn't thinking about that. I used to be part of the Twitch Kittens community, and just kind of listening to
Mm.
Julia's story and stuff like that. It kind of seen it. And so like it's made me confront a lot, and it's really made me think about what can I do to not only heal myself but to help others heal. And so that's kind of like where I'm at right now, is trying to figure out what's the best way that I can heal. And like my cousin said, it's leading by example. And so
Mhm.
that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to focus on reclaiming those spaces that I feel like I've lost. Um, and it's been positive for me. Um, I appreciate the Twitch Kittens community for coming forward and kind of exposing what kind of happened and finally confronting it. Because it's forced me to get back into dance, something that I used to love, and push myself into just reclaiming everything. So I mean, I'm starting with dance, and then eventually I'll move back into Twitch. But I think it really makes you kind of understand that you're not alone in it. It happens
Mhm.
to a lot of women and even men, and it's something that we can't ignore anymore.
Yeah,
It's
thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. I like how you said that it made you kind of confront your demons in a sense. Like it made you kind of get to that point to where you are kind of turning it around to kind of reclaiming yourself as well. I feel like that's a very powerful statement as far as people who, I mean, as far as you know, like you say, you suffer
hmm
from PTSD and everything that happened to you in the past, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And I'm really proud that that you're using it to reclaim who you were and who you are as a person, and that's really really awesome. So thank you so much for sharing everything. Really appreciate that. All right, so Kitty.
Yes. Um, it it's definitely brought up certain things that I've been through. Um, I brought a lot of notes and a lot of studies. I mentioned that briefly.
yep.
Yeah.
Um, but when you hear about a lot of these Me Too movements, right? A lot of it has to do got my own hair. A lot of it has to do with, of course, accusations of sexual assault, sexual harassment, and a lot of the time the sort of the allegations that you hear that we want people to take seriously are oftentimes these cases that, they're really bad. They're really manipulative. They're, oftentimes emotional and mental abuse and taking advantage of situations of power and things like that. That, I've certainly been through my share. I'm not going to dig into like my daddy issues and past bad relationship issues because I'm not here to drag I don't uh I haven't really dwelled a lot in that. But when you talk about a lot of these types of cases and a lot of these issues, it's really bad, manipulative, abusive behavior, but it's an abusive kind of behavior that there's no legal recourse for. And as women, when we try to report a lot of these things, there's nothing that can like legally, like, say you wanted to try to get, people involved, say you felt really unsafe. There's no legal recourse for these, women who are, victims, and who there's nothing that anyone can legally do. Like, they can have emotional support, but sharing their stories like this is often the only sort of recourse that they have. They'll never get to see, a day in court, which, police and, justice system issues aside, that's a whole other, put that on the shelf over here. That's his own other mess. But like, there is no recourse, and so all we can do is share our stories. All we can do is try to warn people, is try to let people know that this is really awful behavior that happens. And it is so important that people share these stories to not allow for other people to also get hurt. And I know that that's always something that, excuse me, that I feel has kind of stuck with me. Like, people with, I had one relationship in particular that I went into because I you know people did try to warn me, and I didn't believe them, and I protected him, and I did so many things that, looking back on it, I have so many regrets about my own behavior in that relationship and the person that I became, trying to not believe that essentially I would be with someone who was so manipulative and so toxic and so, like, awful.
Yeah.
And I feel that by connecting and sharing stories and coming forward, we're able to realize, like, when it is so many of these kinds of cases, it's not, you're not crazy, you're not alone. And you do have this option of telling people your story and getting it out there and letting it be known so that it can't happen again.
Yeah, like you said, like how a lot of stories come out, it's mostly based on manipulation and stuff like that, which is just as bad mentally as physical
Mhm.
abuse.
Mhm.
And it's so heartbreaking to see some people say like like how Twitter can be, or even social media can be,
Mhm.
how
Yep.
these stories aren't valid, it's not actual abuse and all this stuff like
Right.
that. And a lot of people
When
try to invalidate that, and I don't think that's right.
Right, and it's like there's, a study that I read that basically it's statistics say that, 2 to 10% of, charges of sexual assault or harassment are false or baseless accusations, but they also say that that number is incredibly inflated, because when they say that accusations are baseless, it's, again, not necessarily that nothing bad happened, but that nothing can be done about it. And that contributes to those numbers. And so, like, it's when it comes to just like believing women and understanding their stories and believing, the toxicity and the effects and the real, like, mental, emotional, and what we oftentimes understand to be potentially physical danger is so real, and
Yeah.
there's just nothing for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is super unfortunate. Um,
Yeah.
in my opinion. And like you said, the justice system, the police system, it's really not in the best place. It's never been in
Yeah.
the best place. I mean, I look back
Nope.
to the whole every time I think about all this stuff, I think back to Brock Turner and how he just got off
Mhm.
easy, and there was so much evidence against him and so much stuff. Like, they had 100% evidence to charge this person for rape
He
and
was
sexual assault.
literally caught red-handed.
Yeah,
Like
like literally
like
caught and nothing happened. So like, when people try to say innocent until proven guilty and all this other stuff, like I don't care about innocent until proven guilty, because it's kind of like that's never that hardly ever works in the actual justice system anyway. I'm
Absolutely.
gonna take this person's side and I'm just gonna roll with them. So
Mhm.
for sure. Kate.
Yeah. Um Where am I at right now? Uh, it's been a really, really rough go of it. I'm gonna try to hold myself together. It's really tough.
We're all here for you, Kate.
Yep, 100%.
A couple people that I considered friends, ended up on this list, right? And that's really, really tough to grapple with because you feel a sense of betrayal. You feel a sense of like, holy shit, how could I not have ever seen any signs? You know, and one person, I guess like Hatsu said, sometimes, like your brain sort of protects yourself, and you don't see things that are in front of your face in certain conversations, and it's easy to like deflect things. I feel like a lot of women are experts at deflection. Like
Absolutely.
if someone comes at us saying something gross, we're just like, oh yeah, okay, and we kind of just push through it because many women are taught to not make a scene, right? And
De-escalation.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
yeah,
oh,
and
you're making a scene. You're one of those, blah, blah,
Yep.
blah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And on top of it, in this industry, our careers are tied up in this too. So it's like, I think a lot of women, because of that power dynamic, felt like, if they're just starting out, wow, I would destroy my streaming career before it even started. Or if they're, you know, even in some kind of position of influence, um, many times the guy has a leg up and has extensive influence, and it's kind of a scary thing to even say anything about it. And it, people saying things aren't saying it for clout, because speaking up gets you nothing but, honestly, a lot of harassment, and a lot of people are pushed out of communities, and a lot of people are further harassed behind the scenes, for saying something. And I didn't really realize that one of those people, like, until it was kind of put in my face, was talking to me in such a way that he talked to a lot of other women, and it was just like a big punch to the gut, like, holy shit, he did that to me too. But it was one of those things where you just don't, you see it, but it doesn't sink in because you're just trying to protect yourself and move on, and this person has so much influence. And that's really tough. A lot of it's brought up a ton of repressed memories, which is just like, oh wow, that's there. Thanks, brain. And that really sucks. A lot of childhood trauma and things like that. I've been in therapy for about 3 years, and I've been able to work through some of it. Like, it's a process. Um, so right now it just feels very raw. A lot of it. I had therapy today, so that was like my monthly, although I'll probably up it because of what's going on. Um, it can be therapeutic to talk about it. I had a stream focused on just this whole thing. Just talking about resources for people, talking about our stories. And it was very cathartic. It was intense, but it was just nice to just get it out there and let people know, like, you're not alone, and to also help other people understand where we're coming from, and the fact that, even when you do say something, uh, many times nothing is done about it. Um, and so you get sort of jaded, and you're like, why, why the hell am I going to tell anyone anyway?
Yeah.
It's usually worse, or nothing comes out of it, and you feel like it was your fault somehow. So I'm kind of currently in just I'm just a mess every day, but it's good to have these talks, and it's, as much as I wish this wasn't a club, like, it's the worst club to be in together. it's still kind of good to, hear other people who are in this super shitty club, I guess.
Yeah, the worst club.
Worst club.
Thank you so much for just coming on tonight too. I know, like you said, it's
Yeah,
been
of
really
course.
rough for you, and I'm really happy that you came on and were able to. Um,
Of course, of course.
and touching back on some things you said about, like, it's crazy that, like, some people that we knew in the industry, just like, we would have never guessed, and also, like you said,
Seems like his internet's dipping.
no. Okay, I'm
Oh
back.
Thought
I'm
it was
back.
no.
me for a second.
I'm back. I'm so
Oh, there he
sorry.
is.
I'm so sorry. No, but I was
Whoop.
saying that
That's okay.
I was saying that it's like you said, how it's crazy how women are. It's, I guess it might be like a survival instinct that women have taken on to brush these things under the rug and to be like, yeah, well, yeah, okay, and then walk away, kind of thing. I feel like that's kind of turned into a survival instinct, which is gross to even think about. And like you said, you don't want to be that crazy person, but I feel like we just need to normalize that at this point. Like, just normalize, like, it. I don't. It's so I realize how strong all of this is in the gaming and content creation community too. Not to say that I never thought it wasn't there, but it's way more prevalent than I thought it could ever be. And I guess that's me being kind of blind to it because I'm a male. I'm a guy, so I don't really experience these things or see these things happen. You know what I mean? And it really hurt hearing stories from friends that were really close to me too, like, really heavy heart hurt, because it's just like, why would anybody do this to somebody? And I just thank all of y'all for y'all bravery and just being now, like, using y'all stories to kind of uplift one another. I think that's a very, even though it's a disastrous thing, it's a very beautiful thing to witness. And it just, like, I wish I could just give everybody a huge hug. Like, social distance hug, 6 feet please. But yeah, thank y'all so much. Jesus, I don't know, like, just hearing y'all talk is just heavy on me, just because it's just like, just knowing that people have gone through things like this, it's very, very heavy on my heart. Because, like, even me and my wife talked about some of, I'm not going to bring up anything that she's been through, but whenever me and my wife had discussions and she's told me about things that she went through, just like, wow, like, I'm so sorry that this stuff happened to you. And I feel like as men, we need to do a much better job of calling out all of this shit. Like, a much better job, and doing a much better job protecting our friends and women who we call friends. Not just like another, oh, it's just a boy being a boy. Boys will be boys. Like, we're not boys anymore. We're men. And real men, in my opinion, just need to do what's right and need to stick up for women. Even though men are disgusting too, I guess. I don't know. Men in this general are just stupid.
I feel like that's really not fair to say, and I this is maybe a point that I really like to stick with. I don't like to make generalizations.
Yeah.
Like I will in moments of anger say like, oh, men are stupid, throw rocks. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I never mean it. But generally speaking, by saying things like men are stupid and gross, like, even though we
Yeah.
use them in jest, right? It that in and of itself is sort of this almost the same kind of excuse as boys will be boys. Men are terrible, they can't control themselves.
Yeah.
We have to, defend against them all the time, and it doesn't put accountability onto those men
Yeah.
because they're just gross and terrible because that's how men are by default. And obviously, I don't think any of us believe that,
Oh yeah.
even if we might feel it occasionally. Uh, but it's I feel like that kind of talk can sometimes be, as much as it's cathartic, occasionally in moments of high emotion, it's something that I feel is a really important message to, to actually share quite the opposite of. We know men are strong. We know that they have such capacity for kindness and bravery and warmth and so many positive things, and that's almost why it's so hurtful when they then turn around and are also present these dark terrible sides that they've never that n- these particular individuals have never learned to control, have never been held accountable for. And I feel like really a lot of the time that's kind of really what we're striving for is that accountability and looking for saying, no, it's not just a shitty situation. You made a choice
Yeah.
to be a shitty person in that moment. And that's something that I feel like we don't hold we as a society, we don't know how to hold men accountable for these types of things in an appropriate way a lot of the time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just doing a
Yeah.
generalizing statement. Like I know,
I
yeah,
but
like
that's exactly what we're here
yeah.
to talk about. And so
Like
that's why I like
I know I'm a very soft individual and my heart is very much to all these women and I know how men can be and normalizing men being emotional and normalizing men just being these the so like the figure of the man is supposed to be the one that holds things together. Like that's pretty
mhm,
much the talk that
Mhm.
everybody has always gone through. And it's kind of like I feel like most men don't really understand it until they become a father.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I became like once I became a dad, like my whole life changed because it's kind of like what can I do to better myself so I can instill these values into my son so that he's a better man in the future, for everything else. And I feel like, men embracing their gentle nature is a very, very huge step forward. And I feel like we're getting more and more into that. And I'm trying, I am going to kind of segue it into the mental health situation because we just lost a very, very good Twitch community member with Recful. And
mhm,
Mhm.
that was very, very, very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys watched like the clip from his stream, knowing that stuff happened to him shortly before everything happened. But it
mm,
was very, very heartbreaking to know that people do things in jest, and it's not something to joke about, especially somebody
mhm,
who says it's not funny and they're feeling it. And it's even going into the whole Alinity situation too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And like, we can all agree with how she handled her animals wasn't the greatest. But we can also agree that people can change and she's heartfully apologized for what she did plenty of times, and people unfortunately refuse to hear it or see it. It's all in this cancel culture toxicity that takes over Twitter in general. Like
Oh yeah,
Twitter's the number one reason for cancel culture, bar none. And we're especially with streamer Twitter, it's terrible. Um, and it's just kind of like, what can we do? There was a bad take I read, and it's from somebody who I really respected, and I'm not gonna get too into it, but I thought it was a very bad take to put people's mental health on streamers' shoulders because
yeah.
all of us
mhm,
deal with our own problems day to day, and we aren't licensed therapists.
mhm,
We don't know what we will say. We might say the wrong thing, and somebody's death will be on our hands. And it would be terrible to put that mental struggle on streamers, in my opinion.
mhm.
What do y'all think as streamers that we can do better to give resources to our community as far as mental health or anything like that? Um, Anything going on really in the Twitchverse? And I'll just start with you, Katsu, if you want to start that off. No! No!
What
I'm
was that?
sorry. I'm sorry, I
Oh,
got
you good?
disconnected again.
Oh.
My internet is being doo doo. Did y'all hear what I said? Did I cut out?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
heard you.
Okay, cool. All right. So, Katsu, if there's anything that you want to say, as far as what we can do that will better give resources like to our community, or anything, your point of view.
So I think what was it? Last night I shared a story on Twitter after hearing Alinity's clip, and I'm probably gonna choke up, but there was a time in my life where I had tried to commit suicide 7 times in the course of 2 months,
Mhm.
and I didn't tell anyone. And I think my breaking point was when I came home from work and I was literally sitting there, and it was like I had no control over my body. It was like my mind was saying don't do this, but there was nothing I could do to stop myself from swallowing those pills. And when I was finally able to regain some type of control, I called my mom, and all she did was listen. She sat there with an open mind and open heart, and she really took in what I was going through. Um, and that in and of itself changed my life.
Mhm.
Had I not called her that night, I probably wouldn't even be here.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the biggest things is that you have to listen with an open mind and an open heart. You don't have to have the perfect words to say, and it's okay to say I don't know what to tell you, but I understand what you're going through. Because not everyone's battle is going to be the exact same. Not everyone's going to handle depression the same way. And that's one of the biggest things too is you have to understand that not everyone's going to react the same way. But just being there is what's most important. Just being there, listening, and giving someone at least an outlet. And I think checking up on people too. Like if there's someone who is going through a hard time, saying, "Hey, how are you doing?" It doesn't have to be, "Hey, call me whenever you can," because a person like me is gonna be like, "Yeah, no, I'm just gonna try to handle this on my own." Like I've got these. I'm supposed to be the strong person, so I'm just gonna handle it on my own. It could be, "Hey, I was just thinking about you today, wanted to see how you were doing," or, "Hey, you wanna watch a movie or something," or something like that. Just something simple, or say, "Hey, I'm gonna call you in a couple days just to check up on you." And I think that'll help a lot. And it doesn't just
Mhm.
have to be the streamer. It could be mods. It could be any member of the community that can really just reach out.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and wow, thank you to your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you to
Glad
your
you're
mom,
here.
and I'm glad you're still here. You're a very, I can just tell, this is my first time talking to you. You're a very beautiful soul, and just thank you for still being here for sure. You're amazing, and don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise.
Oh, thank you.
All right,
I
Kitty.
don't always
Oh,
feel like that, but
I mean, we all have our moments, right? Even
Oh
I feel
yeah,
like that
definitely.
sometimes. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm not worth anything, even though I have like the most beautiful wife and most beautiful son in the world. I still have my moments of weakness where I just don't
Oh yeah.
feel, worthy of any of that. Kitty, if you want to share anything.
um, I do. I feel like when you talk, there's a lot that I would say as a person that I have to say about promoting mental health and things that's, also very important for our mental health. And sort of what we experience on the day-to-day basis is also to sort of give ourselves permission, especially when we start reaching a certain size. There's going to be a lot of people who want your attention, who need your attention, who have a lot of mental health problems, who are really going through it. you can never really know the true depths of the effects that you can have on people, for better or worse. And, I think it's absolutely great to reach out to people to check in on them to make sure that they're okay. But, to a certain extent, for streamers' mental health and for streamers' well being, it's also important to a certain extent. This is going to sound a little cold, but to maintain a certain amount of distance from members of your community. And that's not to say that, you can't be friends with people, that you can't have genuine connections, but to know yourself and the people that you're around, to know, like, is someone, becoming far too attached for what you can handle? Are you, ending up giving so much energy into a person's situation that, it's starting to take over your life and drain you of your energy and your well-being and all these things. And especially, if you're on this platform long enough, you start to get any kind of platform, you start to grow, it can be extremely detrimental to your mental health and your well-being to be so deeply invested in the lives of, like, in of too many people in your community. And I feel like that's why a lot of times you sort of start to see content creators and streamers sort of pulling away from the communities. And I feel like that's something that, community members, to some extent, under sometimes they understand, sometimes they don't, but they definitely
Yeah.
see it happen. And there's definitely a reason why, a lot of people will be like, oh, I prefer smaller streamers. Like, you hear that a lot, like, oh, I really liked her before she got big, now she doesn't talk to people the same way. And, and that, I feel like, has a lot to do with streamers maintaining their own mental health and looking out for themselves. And I think that's honestly okay. And I think that that's something that's not really promoted and talked about enough. As streamers, of course, we care about our community members. Of course, we, feel very deeply connected to these people, especially the ones who have been around for forever, from the time we're small, when we grow, we so have such deep connections to these people. They've been around for so long. We have deep talks. We talk about everything for hours and hours, days and days, years. And but sometimes you have to protect yourself, and that's okay. And I think community members should also know that, you deeply affect the streamers that you're around as deeply as they affect you. And, recognize that, respect that, check in on your streamers as much as they try to check in on you, and make sure that everyone's okay, and that it's, when you have a community, it really supports everyone who's in it, and don't put the responsibility for your own, mental health and well-being on a streamer whose community you're a part of. Because at the end of the day, you know, um, you are the one who's responsible for your mental health and your well-being. And even if someone being a part of someone else's day makes you really happy, that's good. That's great. Make sure that that is not the only thing that you're doing, as much as possible to make yourself happy and to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and I think streamers try to maintain all those relationships and everything with all their community members, and I think that's why you see such a huge mental health problem with
Mhm.
streamers, is because they're all trying to have these heart to hearts and these friendships and bonds with all of their community members, but as they grow more and more, it becomes more and more of a heavy burden. and um
Absolutely.
and yeah, and I feel like a lot of streamers don't know that, and a lot of people don't know that. They'll continue and try their best, and it just takes such a huge mental toll. I mean, me trying to
When
keep
it's
up with everybody, it's just like I can't. you know
Absolutely. And that's, I feel like sometimes that's also where you start to see a lot of bad behavior in streaming communities, and a lot of lashing out is, and a lot of the times you see these people who crave that closeness, and who are really craving that attention and that familiarity and that warmth that, a lot of streamers have, and that they give to their communities every day through their streams, and they want more of that for themselves. And it's not that it's wrong to want that.
Mhm.
but you have to like respect the streamer, respect the boundaries of the relationship and the dynamic as it exists, and really just do your best to be an active participant and to understand what the streamer has to give for you, and to let that be enough for what that relationship is, and not
Yeah.
try to have it fulfill other areas of your life where it's not appropriate for
Mhm.
that to fulfill whatever void you're trying to fill.
Yeah, because like I'm married, I have a son, and I work a full time
Mhm.
job, and I
Yep.
stream, and I try to stay active on social media. And
Mhm.
I even like now, I find myself stretching myself way too thin. And I made a post today about it. It's just like I just feel I'm so mentally exhausted that it's affecting my physical health. Like
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel way more tired every day than I should be, and even if I get a full night's sleep, I still just feel exhausted. Like I wake up
What's a
and I'm
full
just
night's
like,
sleep?
yeah, right. My most sleep I get is probably I probably get the 8 hours now, but before I used to not get sleep at all. But that's another story. um, all right, Kate's
Where do I start? Um,
from the
I guess,
beginning. No.
yeah, right. I have like so many. I tried to make like bullet points as we were talking, like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Mhm.
so I guess for my own personal experience, I recently took like a 2 week break out of necessity because my body was giving up.
Mhm.
Um, so I recently got partner in mid May, and leading up to that, um, I don't like calling it a push, but
Mhm.
I guess that's the best way to describe it. It started around March,
Mhm.
and I went 2 months straight
You were going
of
ham. You were going ham.
3 days a week, 10+ hour body pains every time.
Oh,
Um,
damn.
and physically, my body was wrecked. I was sleeping maybe a couple hours a night, if anything. Um,
Mhm.
I'm a stay-at-home mom on top of it, so like I need to be awake during the day to take care of my little one. And then there's my streams that were happening at night, and my body's like, and I'm past my 30s, so like I cannot function on no sleep anymore. I could do that when I was 10 plus years ago. But once you hit a point, you're like, damn, I can't do this. So all of it was kind of the perfect storm to where I was physically falling apart. When I tried to sleep, I couldn't. Um, I was sick. I broke my body down incredibly. I know one of my mods is here right now. My mod saw this happen behind the scenes, and
Mhm.
I was a wreck physically and mentally. I pushed myself to burnout where I didn't really realize it at first. That my I couldn't. I I got my partnership, and I practically my body went boom. Like I did not stream. I wasn't even around for like 2 weeks straight.
Mhm.
Um I was physically and mentally a disaster, and then like after that ended, all of these things started happening in the industry.
Mhm.
Um and you know, I will definitely say like, and I always preach this to people too, like, hey, take care of yourself. But then I did not take care of myself. I am that
Mhm.
kind of person who I will take care of everybody else before I even think about taking care of myself. And it was definitely a big wake up call for sure. And I'm still not back to my normal schedule. I'm
Mhm.
still kind of physically recovering and trying to figure everything out and what works for my body, what works for my mental health. And I had to shift my perspective to I just need to do what I have the energy for, and whatever I do, that's okay. If all I do in a day is, get up, take care of my small human, and that's all I do, that is okay, you know?
Mhm.
Um but that's a tough spot to be like knocked down to, basically. And ideally you don't want to get to that spot in streaming.
Mhm.
Do not recommend. Um, so I'd say, yeah, it's so important to like have a group around you that is also telling you like, hey, um, we got your back. Just step back a little bit. And because sometimes you need to be told, and that's okay. So I say, as far as content creators trying to take care of their mental health, have a group around you, whether that's friends or your mods or whatever, who, will tell you straight up, look, like if we need to end this stream right now, we got to do it.
Mhm.
Um, and I think there are a bunch of levels of this. I think I had this realization yesterday, and it was very strange, that how Twitch is structured sort of encourages unhealthy behaviors with
Of course.
streaming. And
Mhm.
it smacked me upside the face. I was like, oh my God. Because I've noticed, obviously taking a couple weeks off, you notice a difference in, revenue or things like that coming from Twitch. And then you think, okay, they encourage these things in order for you to reach certain milestones. Obviously, you make those choices, but it's one of those psychological things that you can get really drawn into doing in order to get, make the next milestone, make the next sub points or whatever. It's gamification and things like that. And
Mhm.
what can Twitch do to help us as creators beyond changing, a they have a lot to freaking work on, and I know they have said they will. We'll see. We have to hold them accountable. We can't just say, sweet, they made a blog post, we're good. We have to keep the pressure on and keep pushing. And I think they could really do a better job of, they've said they're going to change moderation tools, things like that, as far as, filtering out names, like bad names and stuff. It's like, come on, man, this should have been done in the first place.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
1,000%.
but certain phrases I know, involving, mental health, like
Mhm.
toxic mental health, there are some phrases that are not automatically blacklisted. Um, a lot of those have been thrown my way. I get a lot of shit for the kind of content that I make,
Mhm.
and my moderators work their asses off. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like we need better tools, um, to help with moderating these things, to keep our mental health in a better place. I think they really do in their TOS. They do have, things listed that, you can't incite hatred on another streamer and shit like that. But how many times do we see it? All the time. With the Alinity situation, like you said, she has done things that are not okay. But how many times she's been investigated by the SPCA and was cleared?
Mhm.
How many times has she apologized? How many times has she tried to move forward from this? It's been like a year that she
Mhm.
has received endless harassment. And at what point is it enough for people with what we saw what happened with Reckful? And
Mhm.
people say, just ignore it. You cannot. Like, at a certain point, you can't avoid seeing those things, no matter how hard things are moderated or whatever. You just get it from every place. And a lot of it is people taking their anger on Twitch out on her
Mhm.
for not enforcing, you know, their TOS across the board. And that sucks.
Mhm.
Every single Twitter post, I swear, that's all people say, ban Alinity. And it's like, yo, this is an issue you have with Twitch. And she doesn't, at this point, like, what do you want from her
Yeah.
anymore? Like, what
Mhm.
else? How are people supposed to make those changes if it's never freaking enough? How are people
Right.
supposed to get better if, okay, she's apologized, she's made changes, she's been investigated. What do you want from her at this point? They want her to leave the platform, but if she ever shows up somewhere else, y'all gonna still
Follow her.
freaking go after her. It's a deep, deep, deep cultural issue in this space that has been around forever and is
Yeah.
so much more than Twitch. And it's like we have to somehow like tear it out and rebuild it, or it's gonna keep happening. Like the platforms need to help us, and people need to call each other out a lot better, especially men towards other men who are being shitty,
Yeah.
instead of just letting it go. It's just it's an onion. There are a lot of layers here. Like yeah.
Yeah.
Like in chat, Jamal says, how do we forgive people? Right? Like it doesn't seem like people want to.
Yeah.
They want to just shit all over other people at this point.
And some people aren't going to forgive. I mean, that's just point blank period. You can apologize and do everything you want, and people just won't forgive.
Yeah,
Sure.
they won't. And it's just so many times I've received so much harassment and crap that I try to make myself feel better by being like, this is a problem with them. They have something so serious going on within themselves that they have to take it out on others. And it doesn't excuse their actions whatsoever. But sometimes you just have to be like, like, what did someone do to you that you go to say the things that like people say?
And
It's a really complicated issue.
It's another thing about being behind a keyboard and having the anonymity of it, like the anonymous of it, is that
Anonymity.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
It's okay. You and my friend Amber both.
But
she
they
can say
have
anonymity, but anonymity is possible.
yeah, they have that. Like Turtles just said, keyboard warriors. You have people that will they feel like they can get away with anything they want and anything they say. And I feel like there needs to be some guidelines to where they are punished for it. IP bans from the whole site if there's an investigation and they're obviously speaking harassment. They should have a strict, not just an IP ban from that streamer's channel, an IP ban from the site. Period. I mean, and that'll get rid of
people
like
still watch your stuff after they're banned.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
They
can still clip. They can still clip.
Yep.
They can still watch your stream and all that stuff. And they shouldn't have access to your channel at all if they're banned. They shouldn't be able to watch VODs. They shouldn't be able to make clips. They shouldn't be able to watch your stream if they're banned. And the fact that Twitch does not do that is very scary, in my opinion. Like, I don't care about the viewers. I just want this person out of my channel, period. Like, I don't want them here.
And I feel like there's a certain to kind of get back to the forgiveness thing as well. I feel like there's a certain amount of, if you can't forgive someone, then I'm not saying that you should forget about it, but you need to figure out how to move on from it without
move on. Scroll by.
keep scrolling. Like, don't let if you cannot forgive someone's past actions, then don't let them have free real estate in your head, and don't make their life a living hell because you can't move on.
Yep, and there's a mute and ban button for a reason. There's a mute and ban button. Yep.
And I feel like there's such a like, if you are someone who is directly like victimized and abused by someone, that's another story. That is something that was perpetuated against you. That is something that you get to decide how you deal with it. You don't have to forgive that person, and you can, every time something like, if it was a Linity's cat, like, who was on Twitter and saying like, no, you can't forgive her, it would be a different story. And unfortunately, fortunately, the cat doesn't have anything to say, still seems to like her, like is in a happy, healthy home. Everything seems, if you, as a person who was not, directly abused or victimized by this person, either move on or forgive it. That's
Mhm.
your choice. It is so toxic and so hateful to continue to to not allow for someone who has expressed um regret, remorse, who's shown changes, who's trying to move forward in a positive way, to continue to throw the same insults and the same try to hold them accountable for the same thing over and over again is to deny growth and to deny an opportunity for that person to become better, because all you're doing at that point is trying to break them down and never let them grow from that person who they were,
Mhm.
and you freeze them forever in time in that one bad moment. Now for some people it's so bad that, yeah, sure, Brock Turner, he will always be rapist Brock Turner. There is nothing that he can do to move
Mhm.
on from that. Like, that's, there are levels,
Yeah.
but with Alinity and with a lot of people who, are not actively victimized and abusing people, who are, it's like you've got to figure out how to move on and to not let them have that free real estate in your head, and to not make their lives a living hell and not allow them to grow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always try to think of it like, if I were in their position, what would I want to say to them? Because,
Mhm.
you have to think about that, because your words have so much gravity. And I don't think people realize that. They think that
Mhm.
they can just say whatever they want to say, and it's not going to affect the other person. They
Mhm.
see a profile picture and a feed. That's all
Mhm.
they see. They don't see the person behind it. So people
Mhm.
have to really start to think, okay, if that were me, or if that were my kid, or if that were my aunt or my sister, would I want them to have to hear what I want to say? And if you
Mhm.
can't put it in a way that is constructive, then you don't need to say it, because all you're
Right.
doing is hurting that other person, because we are people. We
Mhm.
have feelings. But
Mhm.
if you're not going to sit here and listen to what we have to say, then what's the point?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. For sure. Wow.
And a lot of the time when it is hate like that, you're not trying a lot of those people are not trying to relate as a person. They're just slinging poop.
Yep.
Like
Yeah, just like Jamal just said in the thing, he just said y'all are addressing the senseless toxicity, which is so prevalent in.
Mhm.
I made this Twitter post yesterday, and it's like I said, being kind does not give you clout, which is why the Twitter and everything is full of toxicity, because that is the thing
Mhm.
that gives you the clout. That is the thing that gives you the views and the clicks and the hate. Because some
Mhm.
people thrive on that. Look at I don't want to say his name,
I
but look
know
at
who you're.
fucking
I know what
Yep.
name you're about
Yep.
to.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm not gonna
You're
say it.
not. You're,
All right, so the racist,
do not
sexist,
invoke.
homophobic, bearded man. It's not me.
Yes.
Ugh.
I'm the opposite.
I
but
get
but
so
no.
super ragey, like
And
when it comes to that.
yeah, and it's
I
just
hate to
like,
even say person at this
and
point.
it's just
Like,
like it's that people live on clout, and like kids see this, and I don't think like these
mhm.
influencers understand how many kids watch them.
Mhm.
And like I'm
They
proud
have a
of, yeah,
platform.
and like I'm proud of Ninja right now. Ninja has been doing a great job of speaking out against certain things. With the recent thing, he did apologize to Alinity, which is a good thing.
Okay.
He did speak out against the Me Too movement. He speak out for it. Like if a woman
Mhm.
says no, don't do it. Like that shouldn't even have to be said. Like yeah, Ninja has done some
Growth.
things, but he's showing growth,
Yeah.
and I
Because
think that's a good
he
thing.
used to be kind of toxic at the start towards women.
Well,
Very,
yeah.
very
Oh yeah.
For sure,
toxic, you
for
know?
sure. You can watch his past clips and some things he said, but you also have to
Mhm.
realize, like I talked about this in the last discussion. We were talking about cancel culture. There's a lot of growth that can happen in a year,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
even 2 years. And Ninja's been on this platform for God knows how long. He was doing Halo and stuff like that back in the day. But
Mhm.
a year is a lot of time for somebody to change. Just like we're talking about the Alinity situation. Everything that happened to her was a year ago. She owned up to it. She apologized for it. Like you said, she's been investigated. Nothing came back. All this stuff. And that's the danger of cancel culture and how it affects streamers' mental health. Like, not only what happened with Reckful, but look at what happened to Etika last year.
I know.
And
Yeah.
that is, he was crying for help. He was literally crying and begging for help on his streams, and people were making fun of him for it. And
I think it's just important that I think I tweeted something about this. We have to be hostile towards mental health toxicity.
yes,
And if we see that, we have to shut it down and say something and like, no, that's not okay. Like it is
yeah,
not okay, even if you think it's a joke. But a lot of these people who say that, like, they're really saying it and don't realize the weight of what they're saying and joke about it. Even today, I saw screenshots of things that people were saying in Reckful's chat. Like, what the hell kind of person do you have to be coming back after someone that after that's happened and still like memeing on it? Are you kidding me?
it's
This
disgusting.
person who isn't like a human does not exist in the world anymore because of this shit.
Yeah.
That's serious. And so much of this, like, so many people are so unempathetic towards other human beings. And the fact that, hey, we're real behind here. And it's just, it blows me away that you see that and people still act that way. Like, you must be sick for actually thinking that.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart, like, because you see these cries for help and I worry about Alinity. I don't know her, but like you can see, like in her VOD especially, not just the clip, like you can see these cries for help and how she's speaking about this. It's like, I just want to hug her so bad and hope that she has people who, like Katsu said, just listen, just hold space for someone is sometimes all you need, is just to have another person to hold space with you and just be there, even if it's on the phone or whatever. And I worry, like, I'm an empath. I worry about other people sometimes, even if I don't know them.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what we were saying earlier. We're nothing, for some people. We're nothing but images on a computer screen. Like, and I feel like people have become so desensitized to
Yes.
to influencers and content creators, and I'm not just saying that people in general. I'm just saying like influencers, because that's the space we're in. Okay, like we're influencers, we're content creators, and we make content and we do this because we're passionate about it. We love it. We enjoy it. And people sometimes don't see us. They just see the image on the computer screen or the video or stuff like that. Like people will judge streams just by watching clips, or judge who a person is just because on how, like, one bad thing they said or two bad things they've said, and then they hold that against them, like the Alinity situation. It's even happened to me. I've said something wrong and I admitted it, but I've had close friends that were like just dropped off because I said something that I wasn't educated about, but I did educate myself afterwards. And I feel like showing growth and showing change is very hard to do, especially in this space, because people, not only people, like, I want people to hold me accountable. I don't want people to cancel me. There's a difference
That's
between
what people genuinely want to see, is
Yeah.
someone taking responsibility for their actions and saying, I effed up and I'm learning about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Like I said, there's a difference, like a huge difference between holding people accountable and canceling people outright. And I feel like all we need to do is hold people accountable for their actions. Say, hey, yo, this ain't cool, and then see where it goes from there. But I never believed in outright canceling somebody because of their past actions or past mistakes. Like,
Everyone has done stuff that
yeah.
we're not proud. Like, we're humans and we've gone through a lot of stages in our lives, and I think approaching things with compassion and understanding is a better way to go at it than jumping down someone's throat, you know?
And we're all kind of the same age here. We grew up on the internet. Like, what jokes did we make when we were teenagers that weren't appropriate. You know, like we've made some shitty mistakes in our past, and luckily none of that shit was screenshotted. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has done something because we were young, we were stupid, and we were uneducated. And that's
Mhm.
just what happens. You just take in what's around you. Because, like, I've been in this internet culture since I was a teenager. So it's just like me, like, I used to be in that, you know? I used to say certain words that I would never ever say again because I was a white male in a toxic environment that I adapted to.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, even some people who aren't like a white male, they also adapt to it, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And it's such a toxic, like it's never gotten better.
I
And
was a
Mm-hmm.
toxic teenage girl. Like, I'm
yeah,
not gonna lie. I was in a gaming culture where I was most of the time the only chick playing with a bunch of guys, and you sort of get this like internalized misogyny, and you start to, talk about chicks in a way that is not okay.
yeah,
And
Yep.
looking back on it, I'm like, oh my God, who was I? And it's like they sort of pit us against each other. And now it's like all I want to do is gas other women up
yep,
and just support them and lift them up. And if we actually like got together and I think it's important to evaluate ourselves and where we've come from and the mistakes we've made and what our environment sort of turned us into, I guess.
mm-hmm,
And
Mm-hmm.
I did not like who I was. Like I'm not proud of who I was as a teenager, but
Mm-hmm.
I've grown from that and I feel like I was very blinded and just like how could I ever feel that way,
yeah,
you know? So I think we all have, you know, not going to say all the same stuff, but our own things where, we've grown and things like that.
yeah,
Sure. I
definitely.
definitely feel like a lot of us women definitely went through an I'm not like other girls like phase,
Oh
you
yeah.
know? And it was like the
Only to
It
find
was
out you're
cool
like
to
a
put
lot of
other girls
girls.
down.
exactly. Yeah, no, and it it comes from, being in, very male dominated spaces where you hear
Mhm.
men talking shit about women and you're like, "Oh, I'm not like those women that you talk shit
Yep.
about, please." And
Yep.
I feel
Some
like
don't
I
grow out
sort
of
of
it. Just
some don't grow
saying.
out of it, but
Yeah.
I feel like I sort of was able to, I guess, kind of forgive my past self for going through that phase in a way, not
Yeah.
because it was good, not because it was, the right thing for me at the time, but I sort of taught myself to hear that phrase of I'm not like other girls or oh, I'm not like that as please don't say those things about me. And I feel like that's really what women are saying when they start touting that. It's saying it in a different way, trying to put themselves in a place of strength, trying to distance themselves from, from anyone who's on sort of the receiving end of that type of talk. It's very much that like, oh, I'm not like that. Please don't say those things about me
Yeah.
too. And
Self-preservation, you know.
absolutely. And I feel like, understanding that that's kind of more at the root of what's being said there. And I feel like that's something that a lot of, women and not just women, but men as well, like kind of just understanding that when someone is saying, "Oh, I'm not like that." It's a very defensive thing. That is it, makes you feel that people say when they're feeling attacked or vulnerable or like they could potentially get hurt in some way shape or form. And if it, take a moment if you find yourself in that position where you're saying those things or you feel like you're catching yourself saying those things, like ask yourself like, do I think that they talk like this about me when I'm not around? You know, is this the type of position? Do I actually feel like I'm in a good, safe position around these people? what does this mean for me, and really reflect on that, because I feel like once you kind of recognize that that's what you're doing and that you're really just trying to defend yourself against the things that people are that the people around you are saying about other people that you might see yourself as being in line with, maybe it's time to find some new friends.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I think, like when you kind of have that realization, you know,
Mhm.
it's really important that you start to find people who are going to help push you to that growth. Because
Mhm.
if you're not being elevated, there's something wrong,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that needs to happen on Twitch too, is, we're constantly paying attention to all the toxic people, but the people out there trying to spread positive vibes, we're like, oh, whatever. We just kind of
Mhm.
brush them off. But if you actually sit there and you listen to them, like, we're the ones that are helping you grow as a person, because we're coming to you, not judging you, not person as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think a thing that goes on too is that like you said, people speaking positivity and stuff like that in the Twitch creator space is that a lot of people take who you are at face value. Another
Mhm.
thing is like when a lot of people see a lot of persons spew out positivity, they think it's fake. Because
Right.
Yeah.
they project who they are onto you, and they project like there's no way this person is always this positive, or like I've gotten called fake plenty of times because I'm a very positive person and I've always been that way.
Sure.
I've never been somebody who's been super negative, and I've always wanted to have like a comfortable environment, comfortable space. And it's hard to make people believe you over the internet unless like
Mhm.
you actually spend time with them. And that's the
Mhm.
Yeah.
sad part, because nobody
Yeah.
believes face value um positivity or anything, or how like anybody is it's hard to, because like look
Oh
at
yeah.
like we were talking about earlier, like with the Me Too movement, like all these people that we thought were positive influences and that were positive people turned out to be absolute shitbags, and they turned
Mhm.
out to be like real pieces of shit. And like fortunately I think there was only one person that I knew that got called out, so I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't associate myself with more than half of these people because um it's just like it's just crazy, because like like I said, they project themselves onto you, so it's not like you can be as real as you want and nobody will believe you unless we're having conversations like this. Like if we're having conversations like this, we can kind of find out who each other is and stuff like that, and find out more about each other. But it's impossible to please everybody in that aspect, you know. And I just feel like we need to normalize positivity rather
Yeah.
than.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the issue. Why people think it's fake is because it's not normalized nearly enough, and
Mhm.
that's the issue. Like the underlying issue for sure.
But
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's
people go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I
No,
think
you,
people
no, you,
really
no.
want to like reply to someone who is being shitty or
Mhm.
quote
Right.
retweet them and be like, look at this asshole. It's like, don't give them the engagement. Don't spread their word because it's gonna, sometimes people will screenshot it instead, which if you're going to do it, it's a little bit better, I guess, because
People
you're
are
not
still gonna
giving,
go to
yeah,
the
people are
post,
gonna
and they're
go
still
there
they
and
want to see the
still, yeah,
replies, they want to see all the
yeah.
stuff, so it's still
And
giving
that's
them an
what's
engagement.
so frustrating is that it's the crappy stuff and the drama that gets like those engagements and that serotonin and the
Mhm.
clicks and stuff. It's just so frustrating because it's a lot of our psychology too that we're sort of trying to fight against. And
Mm-hmm.
and there's toxic positivity too, which is another
Gosh,
sort of
yeah.
complicated thing too. And I've never thought that you had toxic positivity, Yosh. Like every time
Yeah.
I've seen some of your sort of uplifting tweets, you know, I know that you're not positivity or else kind of thing.
Yeah.
You have a more balanced outlook and
Yeah,
stuff.
I
There is
call
some
out
of that
bullshit too.
toxic
Yeah.
positivity too. which is tough, but yeah, it's complicated. I think it is more important to uplift other creators and people who are trying to show their good to the world and stuff like that, and not amplify those voices that are trying to do the bad.
For sure,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Because everybody wants to put their take on things too. So it's like,
Sure.
oh,
Yeah.
this person did this. Here's my hot take, or here's my hot take on this. What Twitch drama's going on today? Let me give my take.
I've definitely done that too. I try
Yeah.
to be vague about it though.
Yeah,
I
for
try to
sure.
be a little vaguely like
There's
shady.
Subtweet it. That's called
Yeah.
subtweeting.
Yep.
You know.
I try to have a good conversation about it though, right? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
No, I understand what you're talking about. I was just messing with you. But yeah, I know how that is because I used to subtweet a lot. Like back in my early
Yep.
days, I subtweeted everything. Like everything I said, I subtweeted it, and people were like, "Oh, I know who you're talking about," and I'm like, "Oh, DM me, let's talk." Like,
Yeah.
it's just like I guess gossip is fun sometimes, and
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
everybody gets caught up in that, but it's also super toxic. Like it's super toxic. Like if you see something and they're your friends or something like that, or you have at least a tiny bit of relationship with them, message them
Mm-hmm.
and be like, "Yo, dude," or "I don't think this was cool. Like, I think your take was pretty bad," or "I think this is
Right.
coming out wrong. I think you worded this wrong." I think being more
Mm-hmm.
of a friend to people will benefit you more in the long run than negatively subtweeting them or talking about them behind their back. Because
Absolutely.
how do you expect this person to grow if you don't bring things to their attention? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
for sure.
It's
Wow.
it's interesting though, one of the things that we talk about a lot with in terms of growth and learning is, a lot of the time if someone's being shitty, of course, they'll never know if no one ever brings it to their attention.
Mm-hmm.
But there there are cases where, especially if someone brings bad behavior to your attention, it's it's up to you to figure that out and learn from that. And you can't expect someone to be your teacher just because
Mm-hmm.
they're the one who brought it to your attention.
Yes.
There's so many resources that we have these days. Look it up online, read a book, sign up for a class. Like, there are people whose literal jobs it is to teach this stuff.
Yep.
And, that one of the things that I feel like is, started when YouTube started getting big, but of course, certainly has become much more prevalent with live streaming and, Twitch and everything, is sort of this demand of access to people's thoughts, feelings, understandings, and experiences when they absolutely are not. And, I could say to someone like, hey, that's a really bad take. You need to reflect, you need to go learn about why saying shit like that is sexist or something.
Yeah.
And if they're like, no, you tell me, it is not my job to teach you. I
Yeah.
am not a teacher. I am not an educator. In my daily life, I am a librarian. I will help you do research on that topic, but I will not teach you. That is not my job. And oh, I'm not on the clock.
Yeah.
So I feel like one thing that, people sort of, I guess they just feel such an entitlement to someone's time, where it's like if someone does actually bring something to your attention, right? If they have the time to explain it to you, if they're close enough to you that you're like, hey, no, actually, I care about this. Like, please explain it to me. If you have that kind of relationship, great, do it. Fantastic. If you don't, maybe consider internalizing what that person says. Say, cool, do you have any reading materials or something that you would suggest that I look at where I can learn about it? And if they say no, Google it, maybe just do that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's something where it's like, I don't know, where people just feel like you're the one who's telling me that I'm doing something wrong, so you need to prove it to me. And it's like, I do not.
I don't have
And
the
on content creation too,
yeah.
I've seen it so
Yeah.
many freaking things. Since the BLM movement really took off again,
Mhm.
the burden is not on Black folks to educate people on this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go and do it yourself, because it's not their job. It's your job to grow and get better from this. It is not their job, or content creators in this space, or with the Me Too stuff, but it has been
Mhm.
so super prevalent in the last months that it's just like, it's not our jobs to hold your hand through this. That
Yeah.
is like, what is it called? Is it it's like not mental burden, it's like emotional burden. Like it's
It's
these
emotional
things
labor.
that, yeah, emotional labor, exact. Thank you. Those things you should not be putting on people. Freaking don't be lazy. Like, we have the internet. Just because you're having that conversation online right away with a person does
Mhm.
not mean you can sit there and that they owe you shit.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I get so worked up when I see that. It's like, it is not anybody's job to teach you how to grow out of this mindset, or why what you said was not okay. It's
Absolutely.
not anybody's job to do
Yeah,
that.
especially with like you said about the BLM movement, Black Lives Matter. My wife's Black, my son's Black, and my
Mhm.
family's white. My immediate family's white, and I
Mhm.
recently just had to cut them off because during every single time something like this happens, it's quietness and it's silent, and it's kind of like I am super like I've always been super advocate for everything like this on my Facebook. I only recently started it on Twitter. Like I said like earlier, I've learned a lot with my Twitter, like with my voice and everything as a creator. So I changed that a lot over the past few months, and I think this ignited that change. But it's kind of like my family's always kind of like, oh, well, educate me. And then they use a lot of the right wing viewpoints, like what about black on black crime? What about this? What about that? What about this? More white people die to police. So blah blah blah. And like I had an argument with my mom, and she's a teacher, and it's like she said more white people are killed by police than black people. I'm like, Mom, do you know statistics? Like, do you know
Yeah, right.
statistics? Like 500 plus
I've
white
been
people
off of
die.
Facebook
Like,
for over a year because I just cannot.
yeah,
I can't.
yeah.
I mean, it's bad on Twitter too, but
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worse
know.
on Facebook because oh my
Oh.
god, I've had to.
Oh.
I can't be on Facebook. I can't.
Yeah, but it's just like you said, like it's not my job to educate you. It's not even our jobs to educate everybody. If people really want to change, it's really not hard to watch stuff and like to educate yourself and go out of the norm. But people only want to take in what they believe half the time, and that's the
It's like,
unfortunate
how many
thing.
threads and resources have been put together by people like, here, go read this whole thing, watch these movies, read through these studies, like, here,
Yeah,
do it yourself.
the one
Like,
thing.
there's no excuse right now, because you could go anywhere on Twitter to find really great threads to find everything you need to know
Yeah.
about all of this stuff. Obviously, there are, you have to question sources, things like that, but there are really good, legitimate, things put together by people where, don't be lazy about
There's
this.
professors and stuff like that that specialize in studying all of this stuff, and they release books and they have online classes and they have videos of them teaching about systemic racism and why it exists and why these things exist, and it's just like Kitty said, it's not our job to educate you, but you need to put in the effort to educate yourself if you really care. Like that's what and that's what I told my parents. Like, if you really care about me and your grandson and your daughter-in-law, then y'all would put in the time to educate yourselves. But for now, I'm gonna love you from a distance because they're like the only immediate family we have close by. Like my wife's family lives in Texas, so
Right.
like now we just have no family help because sometimes me and my wife want to go out by ourselves, but it's hard because we have nobody to watch our son, so it's mostly like late night dates. Like if I'm not streaming, that's why I cancel a lot of streams. I'm like, I'm gonna spend time with the wife tonight and see y'all later, peace out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very very important for people to educate themselves and not just take the sources that they trust as legit. Fox News and
Absolutely.
CNN.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, someone
Yeah.
actually reached out to me and was like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you safe?" Because I live near Seattle, and
Hmm.
the whole like thing that things have been happening around here, and the part of the city that was like closed down and stuff by protesters and whatnot. You know, like, are you safe? Like, you know, there were news organizations that publish pictures of things like burning down, which weren't even here.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's like, yeah, we're fine. Everything's fine here, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
nothing's, you know, here are some local news sources that would probably better, you know, like inform you on what
Mhm.
is actually going on here. And things that we're not seeing publicized that this stuff's still going on, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
People are still
Oh
out
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
This hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that is so unfortunate that we're not being shown all these images like we were a month ago or whatever. 30 days straight that people have been out on the streets doing this, and we're not hearing people's names anymore. And it's just, it's so important to start at home, talk to your friends and your family. Like, when it's it's just so important to inform people like locally. If someone's saying something shitty, you know, make those changes at home or nearby.
Yeah.
Or if you have that privilege to speak up about something, like, you know, I just sources are tough these days for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's
Yeah.
scary.
But it
But
definitely starts at home, being involved with
mhm.
certain things too. Like I just started I put a panel in and I have like a lot more that I want to do, but it's for the New Orleans Workers Center of Racial Justice, you know, and it's something that I'm really passionate about now, that I want to support my local community more than anything.
Mhm.
And the best you can do is locally support organizations like this. There is a lot of worldwide like nationwide organizations that you can definitely donate to, but if you
Mhm.
want to see like real immediate change, definitely look into some local chapters that you have near you, because those are very, very important, and it's very easy to get involved with those because they're right around the corner. So if you want to get involved with any of that, go right ahead, you know.
Mhm.
I
I could
think it's
definitely.
tough.
Oh,
No,
you
go
can go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I being someone who is black, I think it's hard for us
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think I have I don't think I haven't learned of a different name every single day.
Mhm.
And it's like, you know, I'm trying to work on myself, but I see my community hurting and it's hurting me too. And I take care of my mom full time, and
Mhm.
it's like, okay, well, what happens if we're driving down the street and it's one of us, and we're hearing different names and we're seeing all this stuff that hasn't all these people who haven't had justice. I mean, just we recently, Crystal Kaiser, she was actually sex trafficked and
Mhm.
abused, and she ended up killing her abuser,
Mm-hmm.
and they put her in prison, and she just got out, and it's
Mhm.
like every single day we're battling these injustices, and I don't think people realize we spend so much time working on our own community, but we can't focus on our community when we have to focus on being seen as equal people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
our this whole battle is taking away from our ability to focus on bettering ourselves and our neighbors and everyone else.
Mhm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
exhausting.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah. I'm getting disconnected. Sorry.
Oh, he was
Sorry.
frozen.
My internet has
There he
been
Yeah.
is.
doo doo today. It's been cutting out.
Doodle.
But yeah, it's thank you so much for your input and everything, Katsu. Like definitely like I'm sorry, like you had a whole bunch of white people go on a tangent about it all, you
Oh no, you're
know.
good.
No, but no, it's very 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 important to locally like I said to definitely get more involved because it can be very like when you look at the world a world view of things, and it's so easy to do this on the internet because everything is shown to you right then and there every
Mhm.
day all the time, and it's just like it gets mentally overwhelming because you're intaking all this new stuff that's happening around the world every day all the time. Things are always happening, and it's sometimes you just kind of like take a deep breath and be like, what can I do for my community? What can
Yeah.
I do for my local chapters? Or what can I do to better invest into things that are local to me? Because if you're always thinking about the bigger picture without focusing on the smaller picture first, it's just going to let you lose sight
Yep.
of a lot of stuff. Because like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think people feel like what can I even do? I'm just one person, right? And a lot of these issues sort of cross paths. All of these right now are sort of like relevant to each other and they're
Mhm.
so layered, you know? Um and I think a really good place to start, whether you're looking at BLM or you're looking at these issues in the industry right now or whatever, and everything's freaking burning down, I think it's just important to, whatever it is within your friend group, where you live, whatever these issues are, to tackle them with whatever platform you do have. Because, like, we
Mhm.
all do have some kind of platform, and we can all
Absolutely.
talk to our family and our friends on all of these issues. And it's grassroots. It's those things that, like, we start, I don't want to say small in a bad way, but you talk to that one person and, hey, they're going to have that seed planted in their head and they're going to think about it, you'd hope. And so in our own spaces, it's important to, with mental health, be hostile towards that toxicity. And, guys need to talk up to other guys, um, with BLM, like white folks need to do work in this. And all of these things, I think we can look at and say, we can start small, like right here, right now, talk to our friends and families, our communities in Discord or in stream, and have these conversations where it might not feel like a lot. And with voting right now, too, like how many people like tell people to register because that shit's freaking messed up as hell and complicated, and no one has answers, and a lot of people are disenfranchised with that. And it's just important to let people know, like, these things that are going on. And a lot of people say, oh my gosh, you're just a streamer, stick to your games or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, these are human issues. Again, we're people behind the screen,
Yep, we're more than
and we're
the
trying to
image.
make differences. How are we going to make differences if we never talk about it, you know?
Yeah, and it goes back to crap. I had a train of thought. Wait, I'm gonna get back to it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. Like we're streamers. Kate, I know you had like an awesome charity stream not too long ago. What you were building up for, and then like people don't realize like how much influence we have building up money for charities and movements and stuff like that. And that's a great way to use our platform is through charity and through donations and through stuff like that to support whatever we want to support. You know, there's so many great things out there to do. And there was a recent thing that came up about a lot of people getting mad at Tiltify recently. I don't know if y'all saw that about them taking, I think it was like 3 to 5% of the revenue from all donations.
Oh wow.
But another thing I want to say is like Tiltify is a company too, and
Yeah.
they can't
They
do
gotta
it all for
run.
free. They can't
Yeah.
staff
Yeah.
for free. They allow alerts on your stream. They have integration. They're like one of the only companies that do that. And if they didn't get that 3 to 5%, they wouldn't be running right now because they work with.
They pay employees. They have an HR. They have legal. They have so much to deal, like a lot to deal with behind the scenes. You know, you got to pay people,
Yeah.
and you know, there's payment processing fees. There's all those things to deal with, and I think people are very quick to like jump on stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
and it says it in their terms of service, I believe, that they take like 3 to 5% of all donations.
Right.
I don't remember which exact number it was, but I remember they say it in their terms of service. So
yeah, and I think like recently with the whole drama, whatever, with XQC and Ninja and Lupo, and talking about, you know, streamers getting paid to do charity. And there are exceptions. There are for sure exceptions when a streamer has to be paid to go to an event. That happens with celebrities too, right?
And streamers are basically celebrities at this point. Like,
yeah, at their levels, like, how else are you going to get a Dr. Lupo to show up to a thing, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, I think it encourages to raise more. It encourages more money to be raised in the first place. So, but to lump everybody, because there are so many, I don't like saying smaller, but compared to like the Lupos of Twitch, most people are smaller than that. And a lot of us are just trying to do what we can. And most streamers, I think, go out of pocket actually in buying, you know, prizes or things for incentives if they're not sponsored, to give those things away. I know that most of the time when I do charity streams, I provide things of my own, like out of my own pocket, in order to make it more appealing to people, for people to donate. You know, I think a lot of streamers take money out of their own pocket doing charity streams, and I know it's easy for him to make a statement about like most streamers, is what he said, but it was a very short clip. He gave more context, but and people really just jumped on that. You know, those level of streamers are the 0.01% of Twitch. Like, it, you know, we see them a lot, but that's not the majority. And so it sucked because it could be kind of damaging to people seeing like, oh my gosh, why should I donate to this streamer's thing? You know, when Tiltify was built to make it like a safer way to the money goes directly to the charity instead of a streamer handling it, which I never personally liked to do.
Well, yeah, like Tiltify, you know, takes it and they bring it over. I mean, the only other possible way for you to do it is if people directly donate to the charity or organization. That's the only way you can do it. But Tiltify is, like, to me, the perfect middleman. Plus, you can track it on your stream. You get notifications for when people donate on your stream. No other service provides that. For, I mean, like, there's so much, like, factors to it all. And I think they do a really good job of making it accessible for streamers, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Because the only way for you to keep track of it is like, hey, if you donate, send me a screenshot and tell me how much you donated. Right. You know, and not everybody's going to do that.
Yeah. That can be dangerous, you know, because people have their personal information there. Exactly. And that's one of the things that's also, you know, not dangerous about PayPal donations, but like, I feel like people don't take into consideration often enough, you know, as streamers, a lot of us have, you know, business PayPals where it absolutely does not have our personal information on it. We control who sees that and what that looks like as our business fronts. But when you donate via, you know, Streamlabs, via PayPal, whatever, like, we see your information. And, you know, that's something that, God, there was that really dumb clip about that, of that girl who just been like, it's only $5 to $10 to stop. And like, but she was, the part of it that she brought up was like, oh yeah, I look up, you know, when people donate money to me, I look them up. I'm like,
hell no, that's not okay.
It was so not okay. And but like, I feel like, you know, there are a lot of these services like, like Stream Treats, like Tiltify, like, other things where, they really serve they really do a service on both ends where they protect people for the money that they give. And even
Mhm.
like with Twitch taking money from like the subscriptions that we get and things like that, like of course, like I don't think anyone here would argue that it doesn't make sense that Twitch takes money from subs. Like we all understand why they do that. And I feel like with a lot of these other companies that are cropping up around Twitch and around live streaming and all these things, like we should be able to give them the same kind of benefit of the doubt of they're providing a service, they're
Mhm.
helping everyone remain anonymous to keep their information safe, and to really protect their identity online and in real life, because there are so many wackadoos out there who are who might do something really terrible with the information that they can get their hands on, and that's something that, I feel like people aren't aware enough about a lot
Yeah,
of the time.
I agree. I notice a lot of people have been using the coffee service a little bit more. I don't know if y'all, yeah, but a lot of people have been using that for people to donate directly to them instead of like
Mhm.
PayPal and stuff like that. Because it provides more anonymity. Did I say it right? Yeah. It provides more
Yeah,
anonymity between you and the people donating to you. Plus, I think you get like 90% of all the tips, which is pretty much the same as PayPal after they take out service fees and stuff like that. So, I think like a lot of people has been using that more, and I think I'm going to be looking into that as far as like for donations for the safety of me and my viewers for sure.
Mhm.
Er,
Absolutely.
Y'all are amazing. Thank y'all for joining today. It's been really good conversations. There's one more final thing I want to touch on, and then we can end. Um, and it's what can people do better as far as being an ally to people who have been abused, or and I want to give this the fronts to both because men and women do get abused, like Katsu said earlier. Everybody has the tendency to get abused, and being a man, I can admit, it's tough. It's more tough for us to admit it because there's just such a stigma around men being abused, and I can actually vouch for that. There's plenty of times I felt weak in my life. Like when I had back surgery 2 years ago. I had back surgery, and it really made me feel worthless because I was the provider for my family. I was the person who worked 3 jobs just to make sure we had somewhere to live and somewhere to stay, somewhere to, do all that. And when I had my back surgery, I just felt completely useless. And
Yeah.
that's when my mental health took a dive for the worst. And, I've had a lot of times, and I've had abusive relationships in the past and stuff like that. And, I don't feel like people realize. I mean, I'm just kind of touching on a man's side and all this, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't think people realize how much emotional turmoil men can go through as well because we always want to put up the strong persona, and not a
Mhm.
lot like me. I'm not afraid to cry. I'm not afraid to show a vulnerable side because that's just who I am, and I was surprisingly and definitely raised to accept that, and but what can anybody do better to be an ally to somebody who's been abused in the past, whether mentally or physically? It's all, to me, it's both in the same boat. So Katsu.
Um, I think the one thing that really gets under my skin is asking for evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not always going to be evidence, but at the end of the day, the evidence is in how that person's mental health is. It's
Mhm.
in how they interact with people. It's it's in their everyday life because they're the ones that have to live with the consequences. the abuser gets to walk away, and sometimes they get to go and do it to other people. They get to get forgiveness. They get to, put on a persona and pretend like it didn't happen. But
Mm.
the person that they hurt is the one that has to carry that for the rest of their life. So
Mhm.
asking someone who's carrying this huge burden for evidence, it's just like it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think we have to get past that because it's in our everyday lives. We have to deal with it. We feel it.
So pretty much, like, as I said before, being an ally as far as listening and
Yeah.
being on the side of the abused. Um, unless like there was a situation that happened, I forgot her name, but she came out with accusations that actually proved to be false. And which is so sad because like I think the statistics, I know you researched it before you came on, Kitty, but I think the research is like 96% of people who come out as being abused, or 90%, somewhere around that, are telling the truth, and the
Yep.
other percentage is telling a lie. And it's
Mm.
so like it goes into everything too.
Correction. The as I stated earlier, the 2 to 10% is not necessarily even telling a lie.
Yeah.
The actual percentage of people who are spinning and telling falsehoods is actually so much smaller,
Yeah, it's
because
probably
when you
1%.
talk about these statistics, what they're talking about isn't necessarily just people telling lies about things that didn't happen. They're also stories that where it just nothing can be done.
Yeah.
And that is, where it's not necessarily that it's baseless, but that no crime was committed.
Okay,
And
yeah.
so like that's what a lot of these statistics talk about. They're not talking about every single accusation that comes out on social media.
Mhm.
When people take this data, it's very specifically about accusations that go through to the police, that do get reported, and what comes out. Excuse me, I'm whacking my mic because I gesticulate too much. um and what criminal charges and convictions come from those charges. and
Yeah.
and I think that that's something that's really important to talk about when understanding these statistics. Like, yes,
Mhm.
2% out of the human population, or even just the United States population, is huge. That's a lot of people. That means
Yeah.
that there's a lot of accusations. And that's saying that, like, that's assuming that it's the smallest number. That's still a lot of stories. But you have to view it in that context of this is out of stories that actually get reported, when there's a huge percentage, I think it's something like 30%, don't actually get reported in the first place, right? And on top of that, that's not saying that 2% of people, 2 to 3% of people are lying. That's 2 to 3% of people have told a story that was legally baseless, and meant
Mhm.
that nothing could be done legally about the situation. That's
Got
not to say
you.
that abuse didn't happen, that there wasn't a really fucked up situation, but that an investigation found that there was nothing that could legally be done about it. And so that plays a big role in that percentage of statistics that we see about false accusations. And it's not just that they are false accusations, it's that people don't understand that what they're accusing that person of is sometimes not something that can actually be dealt with in a court of law. And in that way, it is a false accusation
Okay.
rather than a lie about the situation.
Got you. Got you. Okay. Well, I'm gonna rephrase that then, because
Yeah.
probably less than 1% are actually
Yeah.
lying. Like,
There are no numbers about that, and it's impossible for us to
it's
say.
impossible for us to actually know, but it's just
Mhm.
sad when the false accusations are the ones that get more noticed than the ones that are actual accusations and truthful accusations. and
Mhm.
and it's always like a, like I said earlier, a proven until guilty thing. And it's like, how much do you need for somebody to prove to you, like they're telling their story. There's so many twit longers that I read through this past week alone that I've just like sank in every single word, and it's just like, how can you not read this and be like, oh my fucking god, like this
Mhm.
is disgusting, you know? And but yeah, like there's so much, like so much more I can say, but I don't want, like, if we say everything that's on our minds about everything, we'll be on here for like 6 hours. Like we'll be on here forever. But Kitty, same question though. What can everybody do as a to be a better ally in situations of abuse or things like that? Like pretty much, everything that's been going on. What can people do to be a better ally?
I think, and this is going off of a lot of what we've been saying. Um, of course, listen first. And not just listen, but don't get defensive when listening. I feel that that's one of the most difficult things for people when they hear these stories of bad things happening. We immediately question, do I do that? Is this something that I've done? Have I made someone feel this way? And it, to a certain extent, that sort of horror and wonder is, of course, something that we might feel hearing someone else's story, but it's not your place to it is not the time or the place for you to express those feelings. And that, I feel, can be one of the most difficult things for people to understand. And I was talking to someone recently, and I forgot how it came up, but I was talking about how, in this country, when it comes to women and health, doctors are literally disbelieving women about their pain and their symptoms to death. And it's like a huge problem that there have been all kinds of studies done on. And I was talking to this gentleman, and I said, in particular, like, the United States has the highest maternal mortality rate of all developed nations in the world. And it stems from the fact that doctors don't take women's pain seriously, and they don't take women, bringing up symptoms seriously. And, this guy goes, well, I don't know that that's necessarily true. I just had a baby. And I just had to stop and go, you did? Really? Tell me more. And he's like, well, I
Wow.
was there. And I'm like, sir, I'm going to need you to take a step back.
Yes.
Your wife did the work there.
Um,
Her doctors were more involved in that birthing process than you were, and I think I need you to recognize that, pull your head out of your ass, and take a step back and just process what I am trying to educate you with, rather than literally trying to say, I just had a baby. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Like, and it's the and that's just maybe just a personal pet peeve of mine,
Mhm.
like, but listen and don't get defensive. And if you do feel defensive, reflect on why
Mhm.
you feel defensive, and notice what parts of yourself you're feeling like you are relating to this person's story. And if it's that you are realizing that you have probably done something to inadvertently hurt someone in the past, that is something that you have to deal with on your time. And it is not the time or the place when someone is confiding in you and telling you what they have been through to bring up your sudden insecurities
Yeah.
of what their experiences are bringing up for you. That is a whole separate issue. You can deal with that on your time. You can go to therapy. You can maybe even discuss it with the same friend at a later time. But right then, in the moment of being told about someone's experiences, especially for the first time, listen and do your best to just not be defensive and to not bring yourself into the story when you have no place there.
Yeah, I completely agree with every fucking statement you just made because I used to be that type of person, and I feel like it becomes your self-reflection, you project it. So
Absolutely.
you get defensive. You get so defensive because you're self-reflecting so hard on yourself. You're being actually pretty fucking selfish in the whole situation, saying that like, well, I don't think
Exactly.
this, I don't think that, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. It's not about you or your issues or
Yep.
what happened to you. It's about the pain and turmoil that this person is going through. And there's no way for you to relate to that. Like, I can't relate to anything that happens to a woman because I am not a woman. I can't
That's not
relate
true.
to this. Well,
there are things that you can absolutely relate to women about. There are things that you cannot relate to women about that are intrinsically based on them being female.
What I meant by that is that the stigmas that are in society, I can't relate to 100% with females and their stories and things that they go through.
Sure.
So that there's a lot of unfortunate stigmas that are ingrained into our entire human society. It's not national, it's worldwide. And there's not a lot of things that I can relate to. I can't, like you said, I can't say I can't relate to anything that a woman goes through, but I can't relate to harassment that women go through on a day-to-day basis. I can get harassed, yes, but I will never get harassed on the level that a female can go through on the internet because stigmas that exist. And
Absolutely.
so it's kind of like I said, like the self-reflection, you definitely, I agree with that so much. Gosh, like every single thing you were saying, I was like, yes, because it's something that I had to actually learn, and that I've actually learned like probably like the past couple of years, is that, oh no, wait, did I cut out? Am
For
I
a
good?
second there.
Okay.
Yep.
It's like I learned this in probably the past year or two, is that I can't project things that I'm going through onto other people when they're sharing their stories. And that's just something that I just realized on my own. And like, me and my wife, we have a lot of deep talks all the time, and she actually helps me a lot with my self-reflections and stuff like that, which is awesome to have in a partner, you know. And I actually, like, honestly, I give 100% credit of my growth to all these situations to my wife, because I can't say where I'll stand with all this stuff if I didn't have a wife that beat this. She doesn't literally beat me, but beat sense into me, like beat sense into me about things, the problematic things that I do. So I will 100% give her absolute credit on my growth as not only a man but a human, like, period. So thank you so much for that, though. You like hit the nail on the head with all that. Like, Kate,
Thanks.
it's your turn, girl.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because if we let our defensiveness paralyze us, we're never going to dismantle these systems of oppression, because there's a lot of them.
Too
And
many.
it's we're never going to get anywhere if we don't self-reflect and feel freaking uncomfortable. That's the only way we can grow, right? Is see the things that we're doing within ourselves, or other people around us are doing and stuff, and sort of just, I don't know, trying to put it all together, I guess. Sort of echoing what you both have said about just listening, and you know I think it's important for people to remember, like, when it comes to this Me Too movement, it's important to remember that the whole thing isn't innocent until proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Like people don't really get the difference. Like that's what we do in the States in a court of law.
Yes.
Because that's the only way that some of these things could. We need certain systems in it, like structures in the justice system for these things to work, right? And I mean, they mostly don't work. But innocent until proven guilty is a criminal law thing. We ain't in court.
Yeah.
This isn't court. We're not jurors that have to prove without a reasonable doubt or beyond a reasonable doubt that these things have happened. We're not all wearing body cams all of our lives. And so when someone comes forward with a story, if your immediate thought is, where's the proof? You need to hold up for a second and just listen. Because when it comes to these things in the online space and just with people in general outside of the court, we do this every day.
Yep.
We make decisions based on what we know and what we see. And, am I going to leave my kid with this person? Am I going to walk down this street? We make all of these little judgments every day because we have to stay safe, right? And so online, it works in the same way. We have to say, okay, it is more than 50% likely that this thing happened. We don't have to absolutely prove that this woman was raped or harassed by this person. Listen to her story and you put it together and say, listen. It's not on the victim in these like public I don't want to say cases because it's not a court case, but just in these public scenarios that they have to be 100, like they have to roll up with 100% proof of what happened. No, that's not how society even works. That's not how any of this works. If one of your friends IRL came up and said, oh my God, this happened to me, and if it wasn't about sexual abuse or whatever, you wouldn't be like, where's the proof about everything in everyone's lives? Like, that's just the reality of how society works. We're not in a court of law. Twitter is not a court of law. We're not jurors on a panel having to prove someone 100% innocent or guilty. And that's not how businesses work. That's not how academic like councils work and things like that. When stuff happens, in a workplace, there might not be anywhere near 100% proof that someone did something, but they're going to get a problematic person out of there. Like this happens in so many
if you're
places.
Lucky.
Yeah, right. If you're
That's
lucky,
a separate
right?
conversation.
Yeah, whether that really happens and action is taken, that really depends on the space. But I think it's important that we push to change that, where when someone comes forward, like listen to them about it. The things that happen to me, I don't have physical proof of those things. I never will. And even after that stuff happened, I went to the police. I didn't have proof. Yet I was positioned as a person that might be making something up. Like how is a 6-year-old supposed to know anything? Okay. Or what happened or have evidence. Yeah. Let me just sit there and fucking collect pictures and evidence. And, it's the whole thing is just believe people. If something does come out to where they were not being truthful about it, then, we have to take it from there.
Yeah.
When we learn new information, that's where we have to go with it, is follow that. But because in most of these cases, women and men, a lot of things just don't go reported in the first place. So you have that on top of everything. And I think we just need to listen to people's stories, believe them, and we're not doing it for clout because it really sucks to come forward in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important that we listen. And if a survivor is telling you a story, you know, I've seen a lot of people accepting apologies from people who are not the victims or have nothing to do with any of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I forgive you, bro. Like, no, it's not your place to forgive them at all. Like, just stop and listen and do your job to help others be better and you be better, instead of sitting there accepting someone's apology that wasn't meant for you. And you weren't a victim or had nothing to do with it. It's like, just, it's better to be quiet in those cases. I've seen so many these days where they've posted their twit longer apologies or horrible freaking videos that aren't worth anything, and people are like, yeah, bro, I love you, this isn't you, I forgive you. It's like, no, shush. It's not your place. It is not your place to accept and that apology or that forgiveness. That is for the victim.
Yeah, it's kind of like the recent Say No to Rage, the Lono controversy that happened. And that dude is a fucking sociopath.
The fact that dude had anything to come back and say, like, I cannot even start with him.
Yeah, we don't have to give him all the attention, but it's just like, he's like, it's just like all sociopathic tendencies. He came out with a crying apology that was bullshit in the first place. Then he got defensive. Then he brought out a counter argument, and now he's like wants to put his like lawyers on it.
No.
But it's just like,
just take a step back and listen to people and let their voices be heard. Don't speak over them.
Yeah.
Let them have their part of the conversation, because their voice has been taken from them for so long and they need to have that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best thing you can do, is let those people have a voice, amplify their voice. And it's hard on the internet, but sometimes just shut up. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I completely like that's the way I've always stood with being an ally in this situation. And I feel like Twitter always wants something to be mad about, and like people are saying like ally has a negative output. I'm like, shut up. Being an ally is a good thing. Look it up in the dictionary. Like, like I feel like being an ally is definitely like what all y'all said. And thank you guys for I'm not saying like thank you for confirming it for me, but thank you for like letting me know that I'm doing the right thing right now currently, because like I want to make sure I amplify and make sure I am standing with all these women that are coming out about these allegations and these stories. And I'm not to say the stories aren't true. I don't mean it as that kind of connotation. Like these horrific things and events that's taken place in their lives. And I think it's very, very important to be there for people, because like we all said during this, we're human, we're people behind all of this. And why would like you said earlier too, Kate, is like, why would somebody come out and say something like this honestly knowing they'll face backlash? Like it's that's the sad part. Like women come out with their stories and they face backlash for it. And that is the disgusting stigma that we need to fight against, because we should be doing our part to be there for everybody, for sure. Thank you guys so much. I don't want to hold y'all too long. We've already been on this for like 2 hours, a little bit over. Thank y'all all for giving me your time, and thank y'all all for being interested in being part of this conversation. It really means a lot to me, because these are the type of conversations that I think I want to bring light into the Twitch community. And like I said, I wanted to do this last week, but I got nothing but guys that wanted to be part of the podcast. White dudes too. So it was like, oh,
of course,
we can't talk about MeToo. We can't talk about Black Lives Matter.
What are they even going to talk about?
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, well, let's just talk about
That's
Mixer.
a big old circle jerk right
I'm like,
there. Like,
yeah. I'm like, let's just talk about. I'm like, let's just talk about Mixer and content creation, like, And then, And then so like I'm glad I got y'all on here for this, and I have a whole nother thing planned for the Black Lives Matter movement, which I plan on getting black content creators on here just to say things, because I've have a lot of black content creator friends that I talk to behind the scenes, and then I know they want to talk about a few things, especially as a content creator. And wow, but thank you guys so much. If you guys want to do any type of outro, you are more than free to do so. Starting with you, Katsu. If you want to do any type of outro, feel free.
I don't really have one, so.
Well, just
But I mean,
yeah.
Shout
thank
yourself
you
out.
guys. You know, thank you
Brag.
guys for being here, because this is a huge step for me. So thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to kind of start reclaiming another safe space. So
Yeah.
thank you guys, and I hope to see you guys all again soon.
Of course.
So.
Like, you have a safe space in my community, you have a safe space in Kate's community and Kitty's community. I'm pretty sure we're all three of us, all four of us are. No, sorry, I'm getting disconnected. No. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm back.
That's okay.
But I'm sure all of us, all four of us, want to provide a safe space for everybody. Like, I'm very, like, we're all accepting for everybody, except if they're, of course, a bigot, and of course if they're racist and all that bullshit. We have no time for all of that. But
No,
If
we
you
will
prove you're not
foster-
deserving of our acceptance and kindness, then your presence
out.
will not be tolerated. That's it.
Bye.
Boop. Exactly. And but yes, so thank you so much for being on here, Katsu, and I look forward to seeing what content you come back with and you provide for everybody. I'm so excited that this, honestly, I'm really excited that this outlet has given you not only confidence, like you said, but just like a new outlook on how to provide your content. And I really look forward to what you provide for sure. So I will be here to support you every step of the way. I will definitely send you a follow after all of this, and I will, anytime you're online, just let me know, and I'll definitely make sure I try to be there, because it's hard for me to be on streams, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
But I definitely try my best to stop in, or at least like I said, I've been knowing Kate for years. Well, I think like 2 years now, and like her body paint, if you guys haven't, please just check out her channel, and or her Instagram or her Twitter. Her body paint is fucking incredible.
I will probably be stalking it because I love body paint for
Yes.
some reason. I just love it.
If you ever have questions about it, like, I know all of us would probably say the same. Like, it can be really like scary to get out there, especially if you've been pushed out before. But I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know that a lot of people would have your back. Like, even though we don't know each other, I feel like, especially as women, like, we have to look out for each other here.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
And also consider me like an ally. Like, if you guys ever need anything from me, I will always be here as a friend and as a brother. Like, I've always left that open to the table for everybody. And
you let me
but
know
yeah.
who messes with you.
What's their
That is
address?
how it is, like, in my community. Like, people can get on my shit, you know, it sucks, but whatever. But when I find out my friends or community members, it's done.
For sure. All right, Kitty, do you have an outro at all? Feel free to.
Yeah. Do your research. Honestly, if there's one thing that I want y'all to take away from this, aside from listen, don't be defensive, and respect the people around you. If nothing else, you walk away from, if you're still, if you're someone who's sitting here like, I don't know why you'd be sitting here if this was your attitude, but if you're someone who's sitting here going, I'm still skeptical, look at the numbers, do the research. The amount of disbelief that is aimed at the victims of abuse and assault is disproportionate to the number of false accusations, regardless of what the numbers are, regardless of what understand the percentages of the actual instances of cases. At the end of the day, the 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 numbers don't lie, and the truth always comes through. And I think that that's something that's so important to understand and to recognize. And do you really want to be someone who disbelieved that something terrible happened to someone, or and to know later that it was true, and that you spent your time and energy supporting someone who victimized people? Or would you rather say, hey, you know what, I'm sorry, I understand now that what that person said was wrong, and you are the true victim here, and I understand that now. Like, which do you feel more comfortable with in your heart of hearts? And just like 2% of, of baseless claims versus the number of cases out there that don't get reported, that don't get believed, that that the amount of just disbelief in general aimed whenever these stories come to life. Just, the truth will come through. Do your research, understand how this happens, understand the systemic issues, learn, read, take classes, educate yourself, and no matter what, you will come out with a better understanding and as a better person.
Love it. Thank you so much. Kate?
I guess riffing off of that a little bit, do you want to be that person who believes in and supports a liar or the rapist? Like, just that's how it breaks down. If it turns out for whatever reason it's not true, I'd be like, damn, what a dick that they lied about that and could totally change the course of someone's life. But on the other hand, I would much rather listen to these stories than the alternative. So what I would say is listen, call people out when you can, especially if you have the privilege to. Um, I'm putting it out there like, hey guys, like say something to your friend. If your friend's being shitty, if your friend is doing something that they are not supposed to do, because how many times has a guy said, I should have said something. I should have said something, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just get it together and say something about it. Doesn't have to be confrontational, just like, hey, what are you doing? Um, you can make a huge difference. People are going to still make their own choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can go to sleep at the end of the day, like knowing that you did your best. Do your best within like your capabilities, whether that is, you know, messaging someone like, hey, that's not cool, or shout about it. Um, and I think we can all do those in different ways. So stand up, listen. I think it's time to get really loud about stuff. I think, this is a really interesting, I hope it's a turning point, right? I hope that all of this will enact uh change, like real deep change, but it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people, and I think we have to tear down a lot of sort of the rot out of the core of the industry and gaming. It's been so bad for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important that we do that, or else it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening over and over and over again. um so yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Just believe people, do what you can to stand up. Um, do what you can to support. Just don't posture with it, like don't go clout hunting for things by just saying things, do something, because we can do it. Doesn't have to be huge, it doesn't have to be money. There's so many little things we can do in our lives every day to help, chip this away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
I
that's
guess
what
that's it for me.
and that's what I feel like I want to start doing. That's why I wanted to start. I think I had the epiphany like 2 weeks ago. Like, hey, I want to start having roundtable discussions, and it's not a typical podcast format. It's not like it's just me and one other person. We're talking. I want to bring in multiple people and bring in their perspectives and their point of views and how they see things, and bring that to light. And like I'm not like a huge streamer by any means, but I have been doing this for a long time, and I have a little bit of following. I feel like, especially in the Twitterverse. I think the Twitterverse is where most people know me. Not a lot of people know me as Yosh the streamer or Yosh the guy on Instagram or YouTube. They just know me as Yosh the guy on Twitter. And
You have a voice and a
yeah,
platform.
and I feel like I do have a voice and a platform, and I'm not like trying to like brag, but I have like almost 14,000 followers on Twitter, and it's just like I want to start being that voice for people that want to make. I want to make a difference, and what can I start doing by making a difference? And I feel like the best way anybody could do that is by making the voices of the unheard more known. And thank you guys so much for being part of this. Like, you guys will never understand the amount of gratitude that I have for y'all taking y'all time to talk with little old me and talk with amongst each other about these subjects, because it really, really does mean a lot. Like, Kate, like I know, like I said already, you're a friend. Like, I consider you a friend, even though we don't talk much. I hope we can talk more, actually. I want to like strengthen our friendship a little bit more.
Totally, dude.
And like, Kitty, I've never talked to you before today. Katsu,
I saw another woman retweet your tweet, and I was like, I trust her. I'll go check this guy out.
Yeah,
Like, that's honestly is how it went for me.
Yeah,
like,
and Katsu, like, I've never talked to you before today, but if you guys ever need anything, like, at all, I am always going to be here for y'all. And I kind of expect the same from y'all. Like, not like, hey, I'm giving you this, give me that. It's just like, every time I like did one of these, every time I've done one of these, like, with the last one's my first one, this is my second one, I've felt closer to everybody that I talk to. And like I said, it's hard to start friendships already on this platform on Twitch. Without people feeling like there's ulterior motive. That's why I said, like, I don't care how big of a following you have. I don't care, like, I don't care who's following you. I don't care if you have 2 viewers in your stream or 1. I don't care if you're affiliate. I just want to talk with you. And I feel like a lot of streamers need to start doing that. And that's why I wanted to do it. Because I'm like, I might form friendships that I never thought with people that I never would have probably been able to take time to talk to. You know? And thank you all for being part of this. Like, I really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
How you organize this.
I felt like I was like last minute.
This is a bunch of dudes. Maybe not, because a lot of people honestly aren't gonna do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
honestly, they're not
honestly,
gonna hold off for a whole week, being like, "This isn't the right way to."
Well,
have
honestly,
this
like, I put it together so quickly because like it was a last minute thing. Like, hey, I want to have a roundtable discussion, and I got it all together. And then like we're talking in the group chat, because I did the same thing I did with y'all. I got everybody in a group chat, and they were like, and then we all said to each other like, "This is nothing but a bunch of white dudes," and then we were like, this is not gonna go well. So like I deleted all my tweets, I backtracked, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna talk about Mixer and content creation.
That's how you change those conversations, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's how that is an active choice that you made to be like, hey, we have to do this differently because it's been going on the other way for so long. Right. So that is a way that people can change these conversations is have the people who are actually involved uh, to have a voice.
Exactly. Yeah. And like I'm glad like the guys that I got together all caught on to it. And we did touch a little bit. We did touch a little bit on Me Too and Black Lives Matter. And I did have like a one person that was kind of like on the opposite side, but I still respect his views and opinions, but it's still not, it doesn't align with mine. I'm like, let's change subjects real quick. Like let's change that a little bit, you know? And that's why I didn't want it to have a bunch of people who hasn't experienced everything that y'all have went through. And I don't know if anyone I'm sure people have told y'all this, but I will definitely confirm it. Y'all are strong and y'all are amazing. And thank you guys for being a voice, and thank y'all for just being yourselves, because Twitch doesn't have a lot of that. And Twitch needs more of that. And we need to let people know that it's okay. No matter what baggage you bring, no matter what you have going on in your life, you're welcomed in this space. You are welcomed. And we will hear you, and we will be here for you. And like I said, all four of us probably are fostering in the same type of communities. And I just immensely, like, I can't even say it enough. Like, I immensely appreciate y'all. And it's not the wine talking, okay? Because I've been sipping on the wine all day, okay? But it's just like me. I drink while I do this because it opens me up more.
Yeah.
I'm not like
feel
a
that.
drunk that's belligerent or somebody who gets angrier. I become more soft-hearted actually as I drink. I'm like a crier when I drink. So that's why I like to drink while having these conversations, because it just opens me up more and more to what everybody else is saying. And there's a old slogan that says 2 ears, 1 mouth. And I feel like that's a definite important slogan to have at the end of this podcast, is that everybody, you have 2 ears, use it more. Like, that's why you have 2 ears, because we are meant to listen to each other's struggles and bring words of encouragement. That's my opinion on the 2 ears, 1 mouth, slogan. And I just appreciate y'all's strength and courage, and I appreciate y'all just being on here and being advocates and being just amazing people in general, because that's what I'm taking away from all this, is that y'all are incredible, and that I will continue using my voice for what I feel is right, and to support women and support victims and support people who don't have the privilege that I have. And I feel like more streamers need to get to that, So. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. I'm sorry. I feel like I went on a tangent.
Okay, this is the closing thoughts. You're also entitled to your closing thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. So thank y'all for everything. And I hope to talk to y'all again soon. I am always available if y'all ever need anybody. And I hope we can walk away with this as friends. If y'all want, I can keep the group chat open on Discord, and we can all talk there and conversate there. If not, do with it as you please, So